Dun dun dun. Hey everybody, it's the Jimmy Doane Show. It's 4 o'clock. That's what that means.
Yep.
4 o'clock on either Wednesday or Sunday. And today is, of course, Wednesday.
Yeah, it's Wednesday, that's right. It's Wednesday. No, Wednesday, yes, the 20th.
That's right, the 20th of February 2019. I'm Counselor Curtis. I'm here with Jimmy Doane. We're here to cover all of the day's news and events. You can find us here all the time. Also, you can find us over on YouTube. I'm going to set up right after the show a time-stamped copy. And also, you can find us in audio format over on iTunes now for your ease of listening pleasure. Search Jimmy Doane, D-O-A-N-E. Good to have you. Nobody, but we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Thank you, Susie LeDuc, for sharing our video last week. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you guys aren't too terribly embarrassed that we're your friends still, please share us.
Right. If you have any friends left after this, right?
That's right. That's right. So,
all right. Well, it's not all the news. There's been quite a bit. I was doing.
It's all the news.
No, well, not all.
All the news. It is news.
Well, one of the things that I didn't really want to do is this Smollett guy or whatever is this. You know, that's
we've done that. We've done horses
we
beat. What's up?
I know.
What's up?
No, nothing. It's just that it's in the news. Still every day there's somebody else coming. I mean, it has to do with this 24-hour news cycle business.
Right. And
once they get started on something, not an hour goes by that they don't repeat it all over again. So
I'm with you. My rule is if we cover it once, I say we skip at least 1 week until we go back to it. I mean, we covered it. Look, we know what happened. It was a hoax. We called it from the beginning. He's in trouble. He's in deep doo-doo. From here, it's just a personal issue as far as I'm concerned. This is just one guy in trouble.
As I say, new stuff's coming out. Is he going to be... Apparently, Rahm Emanuel has gotten in on it to say, to you know, as the... Mayor of Chicago is, calling up the Chicago police and saying, don't arrest this guy. No, he's fine. He's, whatever. Obama's chiming in on it and everything because, it's all racist stuff.
I haven't heard those guys chime in.
This is like an hour ago. I checked it.
Okay. Well, then what they say? What did Obama say? Apparently now. Okay. Fake news alert. Fake news alert.
The splash on the page there was it showed Obama whispering into Rahm Emanuel's ear, and basically the headline, the subhead was there seems to be some hint that there's somebody saying to the police, the mayor is saying to the police, don't bother with this guy.
This is in the Inquirer? Was that where you saw it?
No, well, almost. I don't know, Apple News or something. I forget where it was. Doesn't really matter. I thought the latest word that I heard was that all the Democrats were backing off, deleting tweets. Everybody is just step away. Well, they have. It is.
There's nothing else you can do.
What they've all said, or almost all of them have said, is we're going to wait until it's complete, till the investigation. No, we got to wait till the investigation's complete.
That's just because they don't want to condemn it right now.
Obviously, well, that's right. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that it's interesting when you see the tweets. Mm-hmm. When people put the tweets on my page, for instance, the early tweets was, "This is the most horrible, rotten thing in the world. MAGA people, the Trump people are deliberately trying to stab this guy and blah 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 and all." And finally you find out, and they're saying, you go to them and you say, well, wait a minute, it appears that that's not true. And they go, well, we have to wait till all the information is in. We're not.
Yeah, that's what the knock on all of them is right now.
Well, there's been one person, I forget who it was, who did say, I think it might have been Noah. What's his name? Noah, who said it? Trevor Noah.
Oh yeah.
I think it might have been him, but it was somebody like him that said, oops, really.
Al Sharpton came out and said, look, if he faked it, he should go to prison.
Oh, okay. And Al's still in the news, huh?
Sure.
Tax avoider Al? Yeah, okay.
The one last thing I'll say on it, hopefully,
until next week,
is one more thing. If you ever get attacked, what happens is your body flushes your system with everything, okay, to try to save you. Mm-hmm. And then immediately when it's done and you're safe, one thing that everybody reports is that they're very hungry. So another reason why he shouldn't have had that sandwich.
Oh, right, should have eaten it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay, yeah, well, that's, yeah.
But all right, go ahead.
Okay, again, as usual, in no particular order, Mueller seeks, now apparently the Mueller investigation is going to come out this week.
We'll see.
Well, that's, the rumor.
Right.
The rumor. Fake news rumor. Mueller seeks tough sentence for ex-Trump campaign chairman Manafort.
Yeah.
Did we talk about this before a little bit?
Well, yeah. When we said that because it's theoretically going to be so tough that this may...
What's amazing, of course, as it says here...
this may trigger Trump to pardon him. But what's amazing?
Well, what happened was Mueller was supposed to look into the Russian collusion.
Right.
And it turns out that, oh gosh, guess what? In the process... we found this guy as a tax evader.
Well, look, that's why it looks like a witch hunt, because
right.
all of the crimes, or almost all of the crimes that Mueller has prosecuted, arose after the election.
Right.
These are crimes of reporting to the FBI. These are crimes of complying with the investigation, for the most part. Now, some of these are... This is all tax evasion and money laundering
right.
and failure to report and things like
right.
that. Which, if you think about it, okay, there are no victims in the sense that none of the banks complained about any of the bank fraud.
Right.
Look, this is all about the government. This is all about you didn't pay the crown,
right?
And now you get to go to prison for life.
So it says it's funny because Trump has denied colluding and called the probe a witch hunt, while Russia has denied also meddling. I mean, everybody's denying it, but now. He's going to Mueller's investigation. He cheated the United States Treasury and the public out of more than $6 million in taxes at a time when he had substantial resources. Apparently, he got paid pretty well from the Ukraine or whatever it was.
Sure.
Lived a lavish lifestyle and everything.
He had overseas banks and whatever. I mean,
right.
Who knows?
He began lying. He says now he did lie to the banks to secure a $20 million loan.
Like about his continuing or apparently alleged continuing ongoing relationship with the Russian oligarchs.
Right.
Well,
exactly.
But who knows whether that's lying or misrepresentation or he just doesn't know.
Well, at any rate, apparently they're really going for the 20 years or something like that.
Well, that's what they always do. Here's the way that it works is if you get in trouble in federal court, it's Katie bar the door.
Okay.
You might as well just open fire because there is
Make a run for it?
Man, literally, there's no mercy in federal court at all. Our federal courts are just pounding hammers.
Swim to Cuba?
That's it, man.
Yeah.
You're on your boat. And so, because it's a life sentence, and we have no problem keeping people.
He's 66, so
right. You get 20 years when you're 66, and you're a softie like him. He's probably never spent a day in jail in his life.
Right.
Ugh, it's hideous. It's hideous. I mean, meanwhile, Norway has a 20-year cap on all prison sentences.
Right. Well, not only that, have you seen the prisons?
Oh yeah, they're nice.
I mean,
little beds.
It's an island out there, and they've got everything. I mean, they got internet. They've got. I mean, it's just like everything.
Yeah.
It's like home away from home. So.
Well, I don't know about. Yeah. Sort of camp away from home.
Camp away. That's right. But it's a nice camp anyway.
But yeah. So we have hideous prison situation here, and this isn't going to help. And we got guys like this willing to put people away for lying.
Yeah.
To them.
Okay, next item. School board in Virginia may end transgender bathroom ban. So the school board in Virginia may finally be giving in, although not in court. It will hold public hearings Tuesday, to discuss the possibility of allowing transgender students to use restrooms that correspond with their gender identity. Now, interestingly enough, the suit was brought by a girl who identifies as a guy.
Right.
And she's all, she, whatever, she's all upset. And so her name is Grimm, as expanding his case, her case, whatever, against the school board. A federal judge ruled Thursday that she can sue over its refusal to change the gender of his high school transcript, which still lists him as female. So apparently, he got a driver's license and a birth certificate and all the other stuff, all the other kinds of IDs you need. Everything has her, whatever, him as a him. And the court order legally made Grimm a man, and he's listed as male on his birth certificate, passport, and state issued identification in California. I'm still tethered, she says, whatever. I'm still tethered to 2017 by this document, the transcript. It's unfair that high school has put me through so much and is able to wield that kind of negative influence over my adult life. Well,
what kind of negative influence?
Well, this is the point. everybody knows.
Right.
I mean, you go in there, and I mean, this is all the news. It's everything, everybody. You go in and you want to get a job or something, and they look, and certainly they're going to do it on a meritocracy kind of thing.
Right.
I mean,
well, you got to figure, if it's no big deal, then why is it a big deal?
Well, apparently what happened in Virginia.
They don't want to go back and change like the yearbook pictures or anything, do they?
Good question.
I mean, you can't do that.
Good question. That's out there. It's like you know, in the internet. Once it gets out there, it's on the web. You know, but I think that it's interesting. Apparently, what happened in Virginia was she was forced to use the ladies' room.
Okay.
In school.
Right.
And this was an affront because she wanted to go in and use the men's room because she identified as male.
Right.
And that's, you know, that was horrible, you know, traumatizing and everything else.
Well, for her.
Right.
Allegedly, according to her or him. But the thing is, I mean, look, the way I look at this is this is great.
It's just so funny because, you know, there's everything in the world is collapsing around this kind of. Go ahead. How do you look at it?
No, it's easy. This is an easy one. For adults, nobody cares, right? Like we have unisex bathrooms, nobody cares. Like, because we have enough bathrooms. The only place it's an issue is where privacy is an issue, which is like for kids.
Okay.
And from my perspective, if you're a kid, that means you're under your parents' umbrella at that point, which means you don't get to make major decisions about your life. Like,
well, that's what they call the schools, of course. They're in parento locatus or whatever they call it.
Right.
Yeah, whatever.
In parento locus or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so but my point is, I think these would be a case-by-case basis. You don't need to have.
Well, that's one of the problems, of course, is that when the Supreme Court rules on something like this, generally speaking, it's not case by case.
Well,
it's a blanket thing. If you know, they try and do it narrowly,
right.
But still, it's narrow for 1 million people out of 320 million.
Well, that's all of them, by the way.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's the entire trans population of the United States is 1 million people.
It is fascinating because I do remember Mrs. Jimmy one time, and she was in the tennis changing room or whatever it was. Over here and
Renee Richards came
in. Walked in. Is that now Renee Richards? Now that's different from who was married to what's his name?
I don't know his name yet.
2.5 Men, Sheen.
Okay, Charlie Sheen. You mean?
Yeah, Charlie Sheen. Wasn't he married to a Richards or something? Or?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's different Richards.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
totally different. This one here. The one here.
Renee Richards was the original guy who became a
original. This was 20 years ago or more. Right. But Ms. Jimmy said she was in there and, you know, looked out from underneath the stall and saw hairy legs and said, "What the hell's going on here?" You know, and she scared the crap out of her. She never went back. I mean, that was.
Well, we have these weird. That's another place. I will say. Yeah, I said earlier that adults don't have an issue with it, but adults do this weird gym nakedness thing.
Right.
Like we no problem. You go down to the gym. Nobody. You could get sentenced in the morning from the judge, and then go down there. And then there's the naked judge there in the shower, and you're swimming, and it's all
right.
Everybody's like, whatever.
Right, no question about it. No, well, to say that, it turns out I've talked to some girls, and girls are not real happy about parading around naked in their place.
Okay.
But guys don't give a crap.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you go over here to the club, and nobody cares.
Right, and I guess that's really the distinction is
right.
And so
there's a difference between men and women. Let me tell you what it is.
Well, what I'm getting at is if there's a liberty interest involved, which is if the guys don't care, okay, then you can have whatever. And if the girls do care, then they can have whatever. And that's a private situation. If a girl, I think, wants to identify as a guy, I don't think any of the guys would really care. But the other way around,
for sure.
And so,
well, what the girls tell me is that what they do is they make sure that they take a big towel into the shower, and they never really get undressed.
Okay,
but. In what you call it, we all do, so no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now the next item is Trump just issued an ultimatum to the Venezuelan military: abandon Maduro or else. I'm thinking, what? What are you talking about?
Well, look, you got to remember Trump's all talk. You got to remember that.
Well, yeah, maybe, but either Venezuela's military leaders join Juan Guaido or whatever, or risk losing everything. What do you mean losing everything? They already lost everything.
Well, that's just, it's metaphorical talk. Losing everything. That's the kind of thing you would say. You'll be losers if you don't.
But I mean, it reminds me a little bit of something that I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes. But since January, the Trump administration, joined by the governments in the Americas and Europe, has called for Venezuela's socialist president to step down, partly because the country has suffered an immense economic and humanitarian collapse during his rule. So now they support this other guy who has proclaimed himself as the legitimate, even though there was no, what's his name, Maduro was elected. I mean, however you want to say it, we have seen shoddy elections 1,000 times. I mean, almost not every country, but I mean, all of Africa. I mean, there are places all over the place where I remember when Saddam Hussein, for instance, got 99%. Yeah, well,
crushed it.
Crushed it. That's right. And you sit there and you think, but I mean, not my problem. To send the military in there.
Well, look, I think this is just huffing and puffing or posturing, or maybe he gets to say, "Look, we forced Maduro out," or in the next election, or something like that. I don't know what. He didn't threaten any actual action, did he?
I don't think so. I didn't.
What we're doing is we sent like some military aid to C4s down there, not C4.
C4, right? No, the big airplane.
C-105. What is it? Come on, where's our engineer? Come on.
Yeah, right. So anyway, the big cargo plane.
Yeah.
And they sent to Colombia, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's right over the border.
Right.
And there are also apparently a lot of this is all humanitarian stuff, and no arms.
These bullets are humanitarian.
That's right, humanitarian bullets, and they're sitting on the border in Venezuela or whatever it is, and so what Maduro's done is to park trucks at the border.
I don't think that we are at this point in the 21st century are going to pull in and arm the rebels type of.
Well, I'll tell you, you'd have thought we'd learned our lesson after.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I think at this point we have. I'm just going to go out there.
Okay, you're going to limb this.
Yeah, now a few too many cameras, not us. I don't think Trump will be arming the Sandinistas or the
whatever. Well, again, the thing about it is what they do is they get their the other people to do it, the proxy people,
right. Well,
they arm the Colombians to
I know. That's why I mentioned those two groups. Obviously, they're not
the FARC.
Venezuelan, but right.
Fire up the FARC.
Well, whoever. The Cubans. I mean, I don't know, but I don't think we're going to do that. I think it's too traceable, even for us.
I don't know. I tell you, it's pretty. Some of this stuff is pretty. Okay. Now, the next item that we've seen is surprise. Sanders came out and announced his president.
You don't say.
You don't say that. No, I'm telling you that this is. Yeah. He's, in addition to his focus on income inequality, which is just unbelievable. How you focus on income, well, of course, they all do that now.
Yeah.
He plans to campaign on racial justice and a progressive foreign policy, whatever that means. Together, you and I and our 2016 campaign began the political revolution, and now it's time to complete that revolution and implement the vision that we fought for. And now it was interesting that, I forget exactly who it was that came out. This piece here indicates that he's going to dovetail onto what he did before. Basically to continue. This is what this says.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course he is.
Well, it turns out if you read his speech, his 20-minute speech that he gave no, he's gone into the identity politics. And
he has to fish in that pond.
I know that, but what I say is he didn't do it in 2016, but he's going to do it now. He's going with the crowd on the identity politics.
Okay.
And which is, this is what you have to do. You change your mantra or whatever it is in order to get elected, supposedly. And apparently he's, up there in the front runner, although Biden has not announced yet, but he's, polling number 2 or something. I mean,
yeah.
But now this is 18 months before the election.
Right. I mean, we're not even in March of the year before.
Well, we haven't even seen the first, I think in this summer, early summer, aren't the debates supposed to start?
I don't know. I know that Iowa's not for another 9 months or something.
Well, no, it's more than that. It's almost a year. Iowa's in January?
Yeah.
Yeah, 11 months.
Yeah, so more.
This is February.
Yeah, well, 9 and 2 is 11, and then
Yeah,
there's a
close
couple
enough.
more.
So anyway, he says now's the time to. Sanders' core message will remain unchanged. Actually, it has changed, and that was the thing. He will continue his decades-long drumbeat against income inequality and a corrupt campaign finance system. Racial justice and a progressive foreign policy will be the forefront of his bid. Now, what's interesting to me, these things are, I've said this for 20 years. Campaign finance is the most stupid thing in the whole planet.
Well, it is
Because money will find a way.
Well, that is a smokescreen, really. It's a thing. It's like gerrymandering districts. It's a way to control certain candidates and help and assist or not help and assist other candidates.
Well, not only that, they get what happens
It's
is
like-
they sent Dinesh D'Souza or somebody to jail. Or something.
I know. Well, look, they've been trying to do stuff like that for a long time, and it's worked. I mean, it's been a sword for a lot of people. But I'm with you. It doesn't matter. We saw billionaire after billionaire after billionaire fail at making the presidency and trying to get offices. You can't buy the campaign, especially in today's giant media situation where you can get your word out there any which way. You can have an iTunes channel, a website. You want to know the issues? Here they are, right there. You don't need a distribution network or a newspaper or anything anymore. From my perspective, somebody could run an entire campaign for $10, pretty much. They could, and I just think they could get it done easily that way without having to go the whole situation. So I'm with you. Campaign finance doesn't matter. It's really the money that gets spent after they get elected, which is, of course, 1,000 times the
Right.
campaign finance money that really matters.
Well, the thing about it is when you realize the $4 trillion or thereabouts that goes through Washington D.C., and we have seen how the counties around Washington are the richest, in the United States as far as housing and all that kind of stuff is concerned, and the amount of money that people earn. And the reason is that nothing is going to change the lobbyists.
Well, not with the $4 trillion going.
No,
through
that's what I'm saying. They are going to find a way. If you passed a law that said if you're a lobbyist and you approach a congressman, you will be shot on sight,
They'll still
matter.
find a way.
Would not matter.
No, there's no question.
There's no question about it. And so
get the body bags out because there's
yeah,
going to
and
be.
they're talking about you talk about. Well, there's myriad ways to do this stuff, and it's one of the things is they talk about this the big Supreme Court thing that was opened up to the corporations and everything for unlimited money for PACs.
Right, the Citizens United.
He says it's United Right. What a stupid, why they don't, of course they think they're doing
Look, that was
they
just
should just ash can everything. We don't care who does what.
I'm with you. The whole reason that one is vilified is because it's a semantic trick. Because when the Supreme Court said corporations are people, everybody lost their minds because everybody knows intuitively corporations are not people. But what the Supreme Court meant by that was, of course, that a corporation is just a person spending the money. You think it's a corporation, it's not. There's a guy there. It's a guy. There really is a guy. Right, and he's the one. And it's his expression that is protected by the First Amendment. So a corporation is a person in that sense.
Well, of course, it's interesting you should say that because all the suits that have been filed against, say, unions, where people said, I'm not contributing to the union because what they're contributing to this guy candidate that I don't like. And so I don't think I should be forced to have, and they have a deal now where I think if you're in a union, you can withdraw some of the money that they use for campaign contributions.
I would hope so. And to me, I have no problem with unions as long as they're all voluntary. And I think that they're, well... And if
Let's go find Jimmy Hoffa.
Well, and if they do that kind of stuff, that's what the cops are for, is to prevent that kind of arbitrary enforcement of somebody's particular bent. Well, exactly. So
it's the Kennedy.
You have to allow the unions, and then you have to protect people from overreach by them. But you don't want to have the unions combined with the government, because then that's somehow.
Well, they are, of course.
I know they mostly are these days.
They are ever since the 30s when they passed that.
The unions are quite strong in some of the Scandinavian countries. In Denmark, for example, they have a lot of union participation, and the unions negotiate well for.
Same thing in Germany. I know they do a lot of that. Again, one of the things that you have there is that these are relatively homogeneous societies.
Right. Oh yeah. Look, I'm not trying to say I'm not advocating the Scandinavian model here.
Good.
But on this, before we get on, I want to talk about Bernie for a second.
Okay.
From my perspective, I disagree with you a little bit from this concept of that Bernie's changing his message. I mean, here's a guy, of all the people in Congress, this guy's been the most consistent for the last several decades.
He has.
And I think that is his brand. I think he could sell that aspect of his personality. And what I would do if I were him, I would do this. I would have my people call AOC's people, and I would get her on board now, today, as his vice presidential candidate. Okay, because she is the second most authentic person in Congress from the public's perspective.
Right.
She probably believes everything she says, and it's directly in line with Bernie, and it's far left of the Democrat center. And so I think he could make a run up the left-hand side, and and what you do is you just outflank everybody. You run as a Democrat again. First, you got to get your insurance policy in there so they don't pull the bait and switch at the last second like they did with Donna Brazile and Hillary at the. Oh, sure, we'd just like your endorsement, and we'll take all of your votes. Like they did at the last election, they kicked him out, subverted him and everything, and they might try that again. But I don't think you can win not being in one of the major parties yet.
Right.
So you run as a Democrat, you get AOC on board, you tell everybody up front they better not block me if I'm the number one guy. You outflank everybody on the left, you take the nomination, and then you make a couple of statements that sound somewhat centrist right before the election, in the last 2 weeks when everybody's really paying attention. And then people look up, and they've got two choices. And they've got this guy who, he looks crazy, but hey, he's authentic, and he's likable, and this
old
girl.
white man.
I know that.
He's
at
the bottom of the pile.
But he would have a young Hispanic girl as his running mate.
That's true.
Okay?
That's true.
So now, and here's the only conundrum. Let's say they get elected, and then he croaks. She's too young.
Oh well. Now,
chaos everywhere.
Well, and unfortunately, in Netherlands, they've already had a court case where a guy wanted to change his age.
Right. Yes.
And they said, no, you can't.
Right. Well,
so
that might set a precedent there. You never know. But that's what I would do if I were Bernie.
I mean, if they can change this girl, whatever, birth certificate, they change hers.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? She can identify as a few years older. She could say, I earned it, and I'm in the presidency anyway. It doesn't matter. It's a constitutional paradox there, so she could just claim.
Well, I thought it's interesting, as he's done in the past. Sanders also called President Trump a racist on Tuesday.
No.
Yeah. And a sexist, a xenophobe, and someone who is undermining American democracy as he leads us in an authoritarian direction. I sit there and think, these code words just come out like this. Racist and xenophobe and all this stuff is...
The racist thing goes back to the Mexican comment and the Charlottesville comment.
Okay.
The sexist goes back to the grab them by them.
Right.
The xenophobia goes back to the wall. And it's just... So if you accept those narratives about those issues, I mean...
Well, what's interesting is that is to watch Scott Adams has totally debunked the Charlottesville business.
Right, well, he keeps posting the actual quote from what he said in Charlottesville. And it's very clear he mentions the statue debate and separates it out from white nationalists before he says there's good people on both sides.
What's amazing
but if you want to hear that, then you're going to hear that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I
got a lot of friends who still think he hates Mexicans and said they're all rapists.
Yeah.
Even though he said clearly some of them. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's some of them. And like I said, I'm for amnesty, but you're not going to ever convince me that immigrants don't commit more crimes than people who are already here. But anyway, one other person we have to mention about the presidential candidates is Schultz.
Okay.
Did you see his platform?
No.
So he's anti-debt.
Really?
Yes.
Which figures, but good luck on that.
Well, but interesting, though, as a Democrat. And he's anti-universal health care.
Really?
Yes. So, interesting, he is going to be throwing cold water on those ideas from the left.
Wow.
As long as he stays in. And, of course, they're trying to skewer him.
Yeah, of course they are.
But it'll be interesting to see when you'll have Sanders throwing from one direction and him throwing from the other direction and them in the middle.
Well, I remember when Ross Perot ran, and he had his little charts up there that he did.
I read his book.
Yeah. and it was obvious to his face. He said, we're doomed.
Right.
You know, you can't do this. And well, of course, that was what, 20 years ago or more. In 1980, what was that? Yeah, some 30 years ago.
Well, it was 92.
Was it 90? Okay, 92. Okay. So anyway, 25 years, whatever. So anyway, the deal is that he laid it out. One of the problems, as we've talked about before, is that elections and laws and all that stuff are won and lost on emotion.
Yeah.
You can logically, with the precision of the Aristotelian Pythagorean theorem, prove something, and people say, nah, never mind.
There's no question about that, and I think that's fine. And I think Ross would have won if he hadn't dropped out 2 weeks before the election to go to his freaking daughter's wedding.
Ah,
you remember that?
No, I've forgotten about
Yeah, he dropped out, and he was his popularity was soaring, and he dropped out literally in the critical weeks before the election. And then re-entered and still got 20-something%.
Yeah, something. Whatever.
So I think with personalities like Bernie
Bill
and
Clinton
AOC,
should send him a note.
huh?
Bill Clinton should have sent him a nice thank you note.
Oh, totally. And with personalities like Bernie and AOC, they have enough personality to win. I think so.
I think that what they're going to do is, you remember back the scientist in Back to the Future?
Mm-hmm.
That's Bernie.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He's
Okay.
crazy. But look, I'm not saying his ideas are good, but I'm saying
income equality. I mean, can you imagine there's only one way to do it, as you know, is you take from the rich and you give to the poor. And this is exactly.
Well, I've got a great video of him praising the Sandinistas and
Castro. He went down. He praised Castro.
Yeah.
It was 85 or something like that. He went down. We're brothers under the whole. I mean, that has got to come out and haunt him.
Well, like I said, I've got the video. Might play it at the end here.
Okay. Now Warren,
Right.
Elizabeth, baby, has decided that this is one she's going to do. She's going to tax millionaires to pay for free child care. Wait a minute. You just admit it's not free. I mean, somebody's going to pay for it, and it's millionaires. And so what you're going to do is you're going to get the people that make over $50 million, the gross over $50 million or whatever, net, whatever it is, and you're going to tax them at whatever it is to pay for for child care for people. So, talk about the most unbelievable distribution. I mean, what are you talking about?
Well,
And of course, when you realize that the child care is going to be licensed by the government. So you teach government things to those children in the 2 to 5 year old group, pre-kindergarten, and you say government is good, and you do the newspeak and all that stuff. Okay.
Well, like kids are already indoctrinated their entire lives. That's why communism is so popular. It's because every single one of us is born a communist. Every single one of us grows up in a little communist society where everybody shares things and there's limited resources and we divide up the pie. And then the real war is not like that. The real war, there's unlimited resources and you can generate wealth and things like that, and you're responsible for yourself, and it's different. But so I'm not too worried about the kids getting further indoctrinated from the 3 to 5 year old thing. But I think it's interesting that she picks the most vilified group and the most it's like
helpless.
Right. It's like we're gonna rake the evil billionaires, just the evil billionaires, and we're going to give it to the sick, dying children.
Right.
I mean, it's like the most. What could you say that's bad about this program?
Wait a minute.
Sick,
You're
dying
against children?
Indian children.
Yeah, right.
Just this one black Indian trans children are going to get this, dying of AIDS, are going to get this money, and we're only taking it from some category of evil billionaires.
The Scrooge McDucks.
Right. Well, and they would come up with a category of billionaire, like
the
super billionaires.
They say, for low-income children and affordable care for others.
She says like mega millionaires or something like that.
She cuts it off at $50 million. So with families with a net worth of more than $50 million. Well, no, wait a minute. It gets better. And she calls it, the wealthiest country on the planet. I hear this all the time. And of course, one of the things you don't realize is we're broke. We're $20 trillion in debt.
Well,
You know,
but
we got liabilities. What do you call it? Liabilities in the future of $100 trillion.
Well, the business has got a lot of debt. It's true, but it's still selling a lot of product. We have a lot of cash flow. That's what she means. She just doesn't understand the difference between cash flow and debt. Literally, that's literally what it is. She doesn't understand, as you just mentioned. The debt situation is hideous. If you were running this as a business, you would not want 100% debt to income ratio. But some businesses do operate at that debt ratio.
Right. Well, we have.
Now, the unfunded liabilities, I wouldn't count it.
No, you don't. No, one of the things that there are businesses that do is they use something called floor planning, and that is where the manufacturer or the supplier will basically give you a free ride for 30 to 60 days if you'll and what you do is you sell their product and then you pay them.
Right. But the concept is at some point you get out of debt.
You're right. Oh yeah. You better do it every 60 days or you're in trouble.
Right. Well, I don't think she has any plan for that, but
Ultra millionaire tax.
ultra millionaire. That's
the
it.
ultra millionaire, not just a regular millionaire.
Right.
Ultra millionaire. And of course she says that quality.
Billionaires to babies. That's what you ought to call it.
That is billionaires to babies, right? Billions to babies.
That's it.
Okay, you're on. Well, it's interesting because she says that quality childcare and early education should be a right, not a privilege.
Sure.
It's a right. And we've talked, I mean, it's stunning to me that people can think they can pass a law that gives somebody a right. But of course, what you realize is they can unpass it. They can take your right away.
Well, that's because they don't separate the difference between a constitutional amendment which prohibits people from taking away a right, and a positive law which grants a right, which is impossible in the second.
Right. Well, the thing about it is, as has been said many times, that government which is big enough to give you everything is big enough to take everything.
Yeah. Well, there's no question they're big enough to take everything.
Experts project that the ultra-millionaire tax, will generate $2.75 trillion.
Generate.
Yeah, over the next.
Generate.
Right. That's
it's
right.
going to generate wealth.
Right.
No, see, who wrote that? That's the wrong verb. It is going to acquire wealth from successful businesses, is what it should say.
Well, it's interesting. This is what she wrote, and she said that the experts have said this.
Right. No.
So not her.
Right.
But she says experts said and so in other words, what we're talking about is $2.75 trillion in revenue over the next 10 years. And she says that's about 4 times more than the entire cost of my universal child care. And
So there can be a 4 times cost overrun.
Yeah, exactly. If you think that you're going to basically give what amounts to unlimited, you go down here to the child care place. They're all over town here. We got little child care places all over town, and you suddenly say, well, here we've got $1 million for you to do your child care. What do you think the cost is going to go up? Of course it is. The costs rise to meet income.
They're going to keep costs down. Well, it also said high quality, not just regular child care.
No, high quality. Run by top men.
Exactly.
Top men. No, what's fascinating is that of course, there's licensing and then there's inspections. Mm-hmm. All those people have to be paid. And
she's creating jobs.
Right. That's right. More inspectors.
Right.
So, okay. Moving on, we're going down to the border here.
Oh! Finally get to use a transporter. Go ahead.
Okay. I did not realize we had one of these. Yes, there we are. The U.S. Border Patrol Museum. What?
See, look at these cool cars. I got a snowmobile behind me. There's a plane. There's this old car back here. There's a motorcycle over here somewhere. Helicopter. There's a Willie. Look at this.
That's a J3 or something, airplane.
Yeah, see? There you go. Look at all this cool
stuff. This is a museum, U.S. Border Patrol Museum. And it was vandalized by dozens of protesters in El Paso.
Did they take the plane?
Well, apparently what they did, I'm going to tell you. On Saturday, about 50 protesters, donning masks to conceal their identity, led a very confrontational demonstration at the museum.
This sounds a lot like attacking the police station. In terms of prudence, not a good idea.
No. Well, I mean, they immediately spread throughout the museum and displayed banners that began chanting and singing.
50 protesters attacked the prison.
Right. While this is going on, they went right through the museum and they placed stickers on most of the exhibits. I have no idea what the stickers said, but I mean...
Well, the article cleverly left out the stickers.
Yes, of course, that's right. So I just thought... When I read this, I did not realize we had we've got national museums. One of the things that when I drive across country, Miss Jimmy, one of the things that I found is that we we usually manage to stop at almost all of the antique places, except antique airplane places where we go by at light speed in the background. Could we go up and we're past it before.
You've seen some great signs.
Yes, I mean, turn here to the Antique Airplane Museum,
the world's greatest
or
museum.
the War Museum, or whatever it is, and they're all over the place.
Right.
And but I'll tell you,
or left to the decorating lamp shop.
That's right. Oh my God! But I mean, I understand those museums to a large extent, but I did not realize we had a museum, a National Border Patrol museum.
Man, what kind of you'd have to? That is just seriously it's just like it's like an escaped prisoner raiding the prison or something. What are you doing?
I don't know. I guess that at least maybe now the museum curators will be armed. But it is a border patrol museum. I would imagine they have.
Should have all kinds of good stuff in there.
Yeah,
Oh, in fact, I think I got. Well, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay, well, I was going to move on to the Grand Canyon.
Go ahead.
Well, while we're talking about tourist attractions, Grand Canyon tourists exposed for years to radiation in museum, another museum building, a safety manager said. And what's interesting, for nearly 2 decades, 20 years, at the Grand Canyon, Arizona, tourists, employees, and children, tourists passed by the 3 paint buckets stored in the National Parks Museum collection building, unaware that they were being exposed to radiation. Apparently, what happened was they scooped up some radioactive specimens from uranium ore in the neighborhood, and decided they were going to go ahead and store this in the Grand Canyon Museum, and people were just walking past it. I mean, if you'd walked past with a Geiger counter, it would have gone berserko. And so anyway, in a rogue email sent to all Park Services employees on February 4th, Elston Swede Stephenson, the Safety, Health, and Wellness Manager, described the alleged cover-up as a top management failure and warned of possible health. I don't know what I didn't see in the article how many Rentgens or whatever it was.
Right.
What was it?
Well, I mean, look, nobody got sick and died, right?
Not that we know of.
Right. So, look, if there had been a rash of...
what you do now is you say, I have cancer.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And
I've been to the Grand Canyon.
I've been to the Grand Canyon.
That's right.
And I'm 60 years old and I'm suing.
That's it.
Whatever. So I got cervical cancer. I got, whatever, some kind of cancer. I got it from walking around. So
lung cancer.
Yeah, lung cancer. I was breathing in there. Okay, so that was that thing. Let's see if there was something else here that I was going to do. Is one major other item. Yeah. Okay. I was watching Tucker Carlson the other night. And he had a guy on there who was he was a 25th Amendment guy.
Okay.
And he said apparently there was been some discussions, that come out with one of the advisors there. They're talking about should we invoke the 25th Amendment, which allows if a sufficient number of people, cabinet, and all the other legislator people, they can vote basically to remove the president. Take over if he's nuts. Certifiably nuts. We get a whole bunch of psychiatrists, which of course, if you go to the tweet business, there's all kinds of psychiatrists in this country already said he's nuts. So
right, no, you're right. Yeah.
And so they do it from afar, and of course that's
right.
And as but what I thought was interesting was he had this guy on who was proposing this, and Tucker Carlson could not pin this guy down, because this is the question I would have asked: is okay, given that, how do you get him out? Well, you vote this and you vote that, and no. What I mean is he's decided to stay in the Oval Office, and so what do you do now? Well, once you voted him out and everything, then it's and you have the vice president's going to take over. Yeah, but you don't understand. He's still in the Oval Office, and he says, "I'm president." What do? The guy went on, and finally Tucker says, "You're not going to answer my question," and shut him down. But that's the thing. Here was the germane question du jour.
Well, I'll tell you the answer to that.
What?
You send the marshals.
Okay, I guess you do.
And they literally arrest him and take him away.
but he's head of the military. I mean,
I agree, but
I mean, are not the marshals subject to? Aren't they part of the executive branch or something? I mean, can't he just tell the marshals, don't do this?
It comes down at the end of the day. It does come down to a contest of wills.
Well, you see this in.
But
go ahead.
Well, this is. Well, no. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, you see this in Venezuela. The military is still. I mean, they're voted. You know, the guy's not legit. Blah 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 blah. But the military's standing there. I mean, you know.
Right. And this could go either way. It falls, as humanity has in the past, all different ways down the slopes. That is to say, sometimes you have the guy walks up to Nixon and says, "You're out," and he says, "Okay." And he goes and gets on the freaking helicopter and flies away. Mm-hmm. Other times, they go down there and they say, "You're out," and he says, "You're not taking me alive." You know? And then there's... That's it.
Put stones in front of the Oval Office doors. You know, you
And it's everywhere in between. And we haven't seen this type of a thing yet. But this was a interesting...
I mean, you got to think about how many guns the Secret Service has.
Right. Yeah, Secret Service.
You send the marshals over there all day long, and the Secret Service say no.
Well, they might. It's a question, and that's what it comes down to. The 25th is a tricky one because that one requires an evaluation of actual competency, which is different from any other type of.
Yeah, but how are you going to do it? You say you go on to see look, we've got the psychiatrist over here on the other side of the street. You need to go over and lay down on the couch and tell him you're...
No. See, that's the whole point. And this is not one where you just line up some experts or whatever. This is where everybody has to agree and it's obvious.
What's interesting is we almost had this, and it didn't happen, in the Wilson administration.
Right.
When he was in, for the last, year and a half or something, he was...
Well, and that's why we have this amendment.
Right, that's true. That was in the 60s. You're right. That amendment was in the 60s or something, or 80s, whenever it was passed. 25th. It was fairly recent, obviously. Yeah, it must have been in the 80s.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact date, but it was for that type of circumstance.
Right.
But look, you can say you don't like Trump's politics, but you can't say that he's incompetent, and he's just not. It's just objectively obvious that he's not. If the guy's walking out of the White House without his shoes tied, okay, then let's talk. But until that happens, you just can't invoke the 25th Amendment. But this is, to me, a revealing aspect of the entire Mueller investigation, the entire Russia investigation, the whole McCabe interview, and this is what I want to talk about this week, was the McCabe interview from 60 Minutes last Sunday.
Okay.
If you watch this, it's quite revealing from my perspective. I
did not watch it, so you need to tell me.
It's not entirely conclusive for me, but it's fairly damning in terms of my view of McCabe and the FBI after the election. If you listen to McCabe and what he says about why he's suspicious of Trump, and remember, we talked about right in the closing moments of last week's show, or last few days ago show, that it was McCabe that started the investigation. Mm-hmm. He admits that it was him. And he admits that it was him because he suspected Trump of being a Russian agent. Mm-hmm. When he details out the reasons why he believed that Trump might be a Russian agent, they're incredibly vague. They're weird. It's stuff like, well, he talked about Russia in a positive light. And he said he believed Russian intelligence over ours about this particular one matter. And in one point he even says something like, in a long diatribe about a bunch of stuff, he makes unusual references to Russia or something like that. It's like, those are not reasons. Those are not good reasons. And then he says the firing of Comey, again, not a good reason. He says that Trump suggested to the FBI that they drop the Flynn investigation.
Right.
Not a good reason to investigate him for Russia. Then finally he says something about he wants Rod Rosenstein to mention Russia in the firing memo that he uses eventually to fire Comey. And Rod doesn't do it, but doesn't matter. The whole point is that these are things that might sound funny about Russia or whatever, but there's no substance here. There's nothing in what I just said which would imply that Trump is a Russian agent. Just nothing.
Well, this is one of the things that happens when you pile up all the circumstantial evidence in the world, but where's the smoking gun?
Well, and this isn't even circumstantial evidence.
Right,
This is like
right.
a whisper
This
and
right.
This is
it's
like
gossip.
Right, and now there's a couple of telling things about McCabe's testimony. He goes on and he says, at the FBI, after the Comey firing, he tells Scott Pelley, you can't believe how chaotic everything was at the FBI. Everything was frenzied and people were unsettled and there was turbulence and stressful. He says it's unbelievably stressful at the FBI. Right. And you're asking yourself, why?
Yeah, exactly.
Why? Why is it unbelievably stressful? He goes on and on about this, how it's frenzied, stressful, chaotic, and everybody is freaking out at the FBI. Why? What's happened? Only two things have happened. One, Comey got fired. Okay? Chiefs get fired.
All the time.
All the time. There are contingencies in place. Everybody knows what to do. It's not like everybody's investigations are ripped out of their...
Sometimes you wish that were the case, if you could fire the head of the FDA and have no more... that'd be nice.
But it's not the case. In other words, it should be a smooth transition if the director gets ousted. So the only other event that happened, which could possibly have sent them into a frenzied, chaotic state, is the election of Trump.
Yeah.
For some reason, that threw them into a complete tizzy down at the FBI, and they were losing their minds, all of them apparently. And this is why they come up with the 25th Amendment thing. This is the context that the 25th Amendment came up at.
Right. Yeah,
it was a conversation between McCabe and Rosenstein and I guess not Comey at that time because he was already gone, but. These guys are discussing the 25th Amendment because they don't know what else to do to get rid of Trump. Now, it's fine, perfectly legal for them to discuss the 25th Amendment because they never do anything about it. Trump has tweeted that they should go to jail for talking about it. It's illegal for them to talk about it, think it's a coup and all this kind of stuff. No, it's not, because they didn't do it. They didn't try anything. But here's the thing. They thought about it, and here's the telling part. Scott Pelley asks McCabe, under what context? He says, who brought up the 25th Amendment? McCabe says, Rosenstein. He says, in what context did he bring up the 25th Amendment? Again, trying to get to the justification. McCabe says, I don't remember.
The old fallback.
I don't remember. You don't remember? Scott's retort to that is, seriously? Seriously? He goes, like it was any other argument? And McCabe's like, so in other words, in his mind, it didn't matter. It was just whatever. And so now, and here's the final thing that I will say about McCabe and Trump's relationship. At one point, and I wish I had watched the video the right way, somehow. I wish I had watched the video, again, I couldn't find the same video I watched the first time, but during the Scott Pelley interview, the long one, that's 17 minutes long, McCabe says in there that Trump calls his wife a loser. What you may know is that McCabe's wife ran for a position in Virginia in the last election.
Okay.
And she lost.
Okay.
Loser. And Trump called her a loser to McCabe's face. And he details that to Scott Pelley, and you can see he's furious about it. He's furious. Now, if that happened before the investigation started, that's the reason. That's what I'm going to say. Okay. It's his revenge. He was pissed off. He hates Trump. If it didn't happen because of that, then it's just because they didn't expect Trump to get elected to begin with. And
right. No, nobody did.
The whole contingency.
Nobody. It was.
and also, yeah. So I thought it was a telling investigation and damaging to McCabe, and the White House, the Justice Department, came out and issued a statement which said that everything that guy just said is bullshit. Because, McCabe was fired, as you recall, for false statements, and they just released another one pursuant to the 60 Minutes investigation that said his recitation of facts is false. So, whatever you're going to make of that, I don't know, but it seems like McCabe and Rosenstein are at least open to a potential investigation as to what the hell they were doing, what justified them getting the FISA warrants, what were they thinking about when they were considering the 25th Amendment law, although they didn't do anything, so whatever. But still like to see about the FISA warrants.
Yeah, the FISA warrants. Another thing is Judge Napolitano came on Fox News and says Donald Trump is guilty of an attempt to obstruct justice if Whitaker request report is true. In addition, a former senior counsel to independent counsel Ken Starr's Whitewater probe, Bill Clinton, tweeted that the actions would constitute impeachable activity. Now, what I was wondering is, Donald Trump would be guilty of showing corrupt intent and of an attempt to obstruct justice. But it's not actually obstructing justice, an attempt to obstruct. I don't quite understand how that works.
Well, and I saw this headline but didn't get to the meat of it. He asked Whitaker to do something like drop an investigation on something?
Well, yeah.
Or influence the Mueller?
Asked the then Attorney Acting General Whitaker whether he should put a Trump ally in charge of investigation in New York. In other words, he apparently had acting attorney, whether he should put it. Apparently, he was asked as Acting Attorney General if he could put so and so in charge of the investigation in New York, and I don't know what the deal. Anyway, so apparently that was an obstruction. If you try and get somebody in the state.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So anyway, Judge Andrew Napolitano said the allegations will be evidence of corrupt intent, which is necessary to demonstrate obstruction of justice under the law, and it would be attempted obstruction. Well, I don't quite understand. I guess, attempted murder is a crime, but attempted, I guess it is.
You can have it. It's weak, but and that's the other thing about McCabe's allegations. He wouldn't even say that he believed the allegations about Russia and Trump. That is, when Scott Pelley pressed him, what he said was, well, there was reason that you could believe. And usually a prosecutor will just come out and say, he's guilty. I know it.
Yeah.
I know it. In my heart, he's guilty. They'll just go ahead and stand on that. And he wasn't even willing to do that. So, weak.
Yeah, weak. Okay, I got one more thing.
Go ahead.
Martina Navratilova was dropped by the LBGQXYZ nonprofit after transphobic comment. This Athlete Alley, a nonprofit, that's apparently the name of the organization, that advocates the LGBTQ inclusion and equality in sports, has severed ties with Martina Navratilova. She was apparently on the board of this organization, and of course she's come out as gay and everything, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it says this organization unequivocally stands on the side of the trans athletes and their right to access and compete sport free from discrimination. Now, what happened was Martina, recent comments on trans athletes she says they're transphobic, and one of the things that what Martina had said is that if you let a trans woman, whatever, it's cheating. Because they're going to win every time. I mean, they're just cheating. We talked a little bit about this, and it's true. I mean, just because you have a little bit of surgery, and even if you take hormones or whatever it is, the conversion, you got a little problem there with the conversion, it seems to me. And we've seen this recently, especially in weightlifting and in some other events where they've been allowed to enter. And this is these people are saying, of course we talked about it as the cure was for the athletes to say, I'm not running against that, basically. Or if you set up it's like the Special Olympics. You have the Trans Olympics, I guess.
Well, and then they can compete against roboticized people and all kinds of enhanced.
Well, interesting. Yeah, well, you did.
They have the steroid athletes there too, and
right, special steroids.
It's the all drug, all enhancement Olympics as well.
Because you see, one of them, the one guy sued to run in the races, and he was using those springy
blades, right?
Yeah, the blades, right. And at what point do you draw the line?
Well, and I think we talked about this. This is going to work itself out just fine on its own, because the way you draw the line is when the spectators buy their tickets.
Exactly.
And the spectators are only going to buy tickets to contests that they believe are fair.
Right.
So if you put people in the contests who can fly, guess what? They're not going to compete against the runners.
No.
And nobody's going to want to watch it. We'll see what happens.
I just thought it was interesting that they shunned her, and she was perfectly right on this, and she's the voice, but to me the idea that you can mix and match like that is.
Yeah, it's a little off-putting to me too. There's an MMA fighter who is now a girl who used to be a guy.
Really?
Yeah, and occasionally she just beats the crap out of the other girls. But she got beat the other day by a girl, by a from birth girl. There's got to be a term for that, right?
Cis.
Now I guess. No, well, I don't know if that means...
Cis, doesn't cis mean that you, whatever you're...
I don't know if that has to do with sex or gender, I don't know.
Oh, right, yeah, who knows?
But I'm just saying, the whole time. So...
It's interesting to see. Well, it'll be interesting to see as this develops because obviously it doesn't take you too long to figure out this is so far off the track. This is bozo against nature. I mean, we've decided we're past the law against gravity. So,
at some point. All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining us.
Right on
we
time.
really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bill and Robert, woohoo, and Kelly, we appreciate it. This is, of course, the Jimmy Doane Show. We do this twice a week these days at 4 o'clock on Wednesdays and Sundays. This track and the one you heard before come from Kevin MacLeod. Kevin MacLeod is a relative of Connor. This is called Cold Funk. Earlier it was Whiskey on the Mississippi, and later Happy Happy Game Show. That's Jimmy Doane.
Yes, hi.
I am Councillor Curtis. We'll be back Sunday at 4 o'clock. So, talk to you soon.
I was going to talk about President's Day. I should get rid of it.